Thank you very much, Matthew. Good morning. Welcome to City Hall, and thank you for joining me today. As Matthew has said, we will be having a minute's silence at 11 a.m. today to remember all those killed or injured in the attacks on Paris 12 months ago. But can I just say this? The attack on Paris was an attack on all of us, on our values, on our way of life. And 1 year on, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the victims and their families. I'm proud to welcome you all to this conference on building better integrated, more cohesive communities. And as you can see by the weather, I made sure to lay on a traditional London welcome for you all. I can promise you sunshine later on. How's that? It's great to have so many people here representing amazing cities from the UK, across Europe, and around the world. You know, I'm told the last time we had so many representatives from Europe and the world getting together was to figure out how to react to the news that the British Foreign Secretary is Boris Johnson. No, he really is. No, seriously, as we go forward, I think cities like ours will need to work more closely together on the shared challenges we face. Because I've seen firsthand how we're assuming an even greater role in our globalized world, and how we have a unique role to play in steering our societies through a time of unprecedented change and upheaval. I'm looking forward to today, for there's no doubt that one of the most complex challenges we face is how we ensure all our communities are cohesive and integrated. This is an issue that's very dear to my heart, and one I believe we can't afford to ignore. It's so important because it goes right down to the fundamentals of who we are, how we treat each other, and what kind of cities we want to be in the future. We come together today in one of the most diverse cities in the world. You know, 1 in 3 Londoners were born outside the UK. Over 300 languages are spoken on our streets, and every faith is freely practiced. And in London, on the whole, we don't simply tolerate one another or just accept our differences, we respect and celebrate them. How we treat each other in London has improved for the better in so many ways. When we talk about London being open, we don't just mean that our city is entrepreneurial, open to new ways of thinking and outward looking. We mean that we draw strength from our diversity, that the key ingredient of our city's remarkable success over centuries has been the flow of people and ideas from across the globe. And for me, this history, this story, it's personal. London made me, and my story is London's story. I believe that my election early this year was, in a sense, an embodiment of London's openness, spirit of optimism, and unity. I don't know if there are many Western cities that would elect a child of immigrants, an ethnic minority of Islamic faith, as their mayor, or many places, I'm not sure if you know this, where the son of a bus driver could rise to hold this office. I'm so proud to represent this forward-looking global city, but I'm not complacent. And I have to be honest, we're far from perfect. Our communities have been changing and still are changing rapidly. And our sense of social solidarity is being put to the test like never before. In the UK and across Europe, immigration remains at historically high levels. And this has brought many, many benefits, with each wave of migration adding new and special to our social mix, transforming areas of our city for the better, and bringing new perspectives, ideas and energy. But even in a city as united and open as London, immigration is creating challenges. By and large, as a city, we've managed to retain the open and inclusive attitude that London was built on. But this remains finely balanced. We've not developed the urban ghettos or areas of suburban neglect, something which unfortunately has come to blight some other cities. But our rapid population growth is continuing to put pressure on our public services, our housing and our infrastructure. And at times, the arrival of migrant groups has undermined people's sense of security and belonging within communities. Whether those concerns are well-founded or not, we must all find a way to discuss them and address them as Londoners. Earlier this year, as we all know, the UK voted to leave the EU. Now, I'm proud that London bucked the national trend and voted emphatically to stay in the EU. But we need to be honest about the fact that disquiet over immigration was a big issue for some voters across Britain. And that sense of unease about the pace of change in our communities influenced a lot of votes in London too. I campaigned hard for us to remain in the EU, but my ears are open to the concerns of Londoners who voted to leave. I know that a lot of people feel they haven't shared in the prosperity our city, our country, has experienced, and that some Londoners feel left behind by the big changes in their communities, something that I know is felt by people in many cities across the world. It's not good enough to simply dismiss these feelings as prejudiced or backwards. We need to really understand why so many people feel the way they do. When there's a lack of jobs or a strain in our public services, it can become all too easy to cast around for someone other to blame. But I believe there's something deeper at work too, a trend we have to confront, because it's tearing through our politics and our societies. It appears some migrant communities who've come to our countries to live in peace and to contribute to our economies have become increasingly concentrated, and in some instances, often through no fault of their own, have become segregated from the rest of the local community. There's no doubt this has had a real impact on how we relate to one another. But it's not just about our concern that migrant communities are becoming segregated. It goes much further than that. Our bonds as citizens and neighbours have been put to the test in other ways too. In the second half of the 20th century, the rapid expansion of the middle class in the global north radically improved the opportunities available to millions of people. But we must recognise this has gradually eroded the strong social ties which had previously held tight-knit working class communities together. Now, as we grapple with the effects of rising inequality, too many people in our cities are being forced to make their way through life without the safety net of a strong community to fall back on in tough times. And social and scientific advances mean that more of us are having children later in life and living into old age. Of course, these changes have been a fantastic force for good, giving more Londoners, and women in particular, the chance to chart their own paths in life. But they've also created challenges, putting strain on our health and social care services, and changing the way in which different generations relate to one another within families and communities. To me, it boils down to this. Over my lifetime, we've undergone nothing less than a demographic revolution. And as we've changed, we've come to know one another less and less. Rising immigration, economic shifts, and social and scientific advances have resulted in more diverse but less integrated societies. I'd like to emphasize, and this is important, this isn't simply a crude issue of integration between different nationalities, ethnic groups, or faiths. Too often, we discuss this in simplistic terms. I'm talking about social integration in the wider context. It includes those things, but also includes integration between older and younger Londoners, integration of disabled Londoners, integration of LGBT plus Londoners, and more. And this matters. A lack of integration undermines the sense that there's such a thing as the common life in our cities. It breeds mistrust. It grows anxiety and the fear of crime. It can fuel the development of the politics of division. And it makes it harder for people from different backgrounds to understand people different to them. If you like, to be able to walk a mile in another person's shoes. And let's make no mistake, without action, this situation could get worse and worse. Globalization means our world is getting even smaller, and the wind of change blowing through our communities is picking up speed. It's no good sticking our heads in the sand or acting as if this issue will simply sort itself out in time, or worse still, pretending that it's not a problem for fear of losing the argument to the divisive political forces gaining pace in many countries across Europe and the world. One of the lessons from around the world is that a hands-off approach to social integration simply doesn't work. And that's why I believe that one of the most important tasks now for cities is to take proactive steps to help build strong and integrated communities. So we need city strategies to grow and sustain the strong social ties and bonds of trust, to build cities in which people from all backgrounds see something of themselves in one another and know in their bones that there is such a thing as the common life. You know, it's an old idea that sharing meaningful and rich relationships with people who come from a different perspective is a vital part of a full and fulfilling life. But it's an idea that's been given short shrift in our politics recently. I believe we need to bring back this into our everyday thinking and start encouraging and facilitating greater social integration wherever we can. So what do we mean by this exactly? Sometimes when we talk about the issue of integration, we have a tendency to single out specific groups in our society, to ask how well immigrants are adapting to life in our society, or whether some people aren't doing as well as they should be at school or in the job market. These are important issues. But integration is bigger than that. It's about ensuring that everyone feels connected and is part of their community. As I said, it isn't just a matter for one particular community or group of people, it's an issue for everyone. It's a matter for every Londoner, for every citizen of our cities. As city and civic leaders, we should be investing as much energy into thinking about how we can revitalise our communities as we do our public services and economy. And to do this, we need to start thinking about rules, institutions, and initiatives that could enable people to integrate into cohesive communities. Now, by that, I definitely don't mean assimilation. People shouldn't be forced to drop their cultures and traditions when they arrive in our cities and countries. We all have layers of identity, the foundations of who we are and our character, whether it's our faith, nationality, or heritage. And we should never let anyone tell us that these can't be compatible. But I do believe in real social integration. And this does mean looking at some difficult and sensitive issues. And we shouldn't be embarrassed, for example, to say that we'd like people moving to our cities to learn about our way of life, or to say we want people to appreciate, respect, and share our long-established values, or to say that people working in public-facing jobs should speak our language. And at the same time, we need to look at ourselves. Integration is always a two-way street. And empathy and promoting equality are amongst our most important values. We must be confident that we're making it easy for people to share in our way of life and values, that we're inclusive and welcoming. But whilst shared values and a way of life must be the backbone of our common life, we shouldn't imagine that agreeing a set of rules or asking people to do certain things, like learning English, is the same as getting stuck into the game. We don't just want a box-ticking exercise to make us feel better about ourselves. Promoting social integration must mean ensuring that people of different faiths, ethnicities, social backgrounds, and generations don't just tolerate one another or live side by side, but actually meet and mix with one another on a genuine level, connecting in meaningful ways, and forging relationships as friends and neighbours as well as citizens. And this is so important because we know when this happens, trust grows and communities flourish. As well as preventing many of the negative trends I mentioned earlier, evidence has also shown it can produce amazingly positive benefits too. It can help reduce mental health issues. It can stop the vulnerable from becoming isolated, and it can enable people to contribute fully to their community, increasing social mobility and helping people develop new skills and fulfill their potential. Studies have found that meaningfully engaging with someone from a different ethnicity, social background, or age group makes people more likely not just to view that particular group positively, but to put more faith in people as a whole. So through creating opportunities for people to come together within communities, we can build kinder and more empathetic cities. And ensuring that our intensifying diversity strengthens rather than erodes the social fabric of our neighbourhoods. This is the way to a more productive, healthier, and ultimately more prosperous city for everyone. So how do we achieve this? How do we achieve this? I believe we all need to seek to weave unifying experiences into the fabric of everyday life in our cities, to embed a focus on building connections between Londoners from different backgrounds deep into the institutions that shape our modern cities. And in London, for example, this includes this very building. That's why I made the decision to appoint London's first ever Deputy Mayor with responsibility for social integration, social mobility, and community engagement. And you heard from Matthew Ryder earlier this morning. A key part of Matthew's role in City Hall will be figuring out how we can effectively support the Londoners who are already leading the way in building better integrated, more cohesive communities. And it's great to see so many individuals and organisations here in London and other parts from London and from other parts of the UK that are already doing great work, like Good Gym and North London Cares, which is helping the old and the young to connect. Like The Challenge, a charity that is working to make integration a rite of passage for young people. Like the Bike Project, a social enterprise that refurbishes bicycles so that refugees and asylum seekers can make their way around our city. And like the faith-based Regeneration Network, which supports people of faith to volunteer in the local community alongside people of other religions and none. And I know that other cities around the world, the mayors of many are here today, are also starting to take some practical action, experimenting with big and bold ideas in civic participation, in planning and urban design, and in economic inclusion. Ideas to forge the strong, resilient, united communities that our cities need. I believe that this is crucial because 2016 has been a year of major political upheaval around the world through the EU referendum campaign here in the UK, the US presidential election, and the rise of populist parties across the globe. We have seen societies split. And too often, the politics of blame and recrimination has seeped into our national debates. We must take action to ensure our differences don't breed division. And at a time in which our politics is becoming more and more polarised, and in which whole communities are feeling increasingly disconnected and estranged from our national politics, we need a strong sense of social solidarity within our cities more than ever. A renewed sense that we're united as neighbours and citizens of cities, and that we share something special as the people who call our cities home, whether as Londoners, Parisians, New Yorkers, or Athenians. And at a time in which national relationships are coming under intense strain, city-to-city dialogue has never been more important. And that's why I'm so grateful to you all for travelling to London today to share your views on social integration and to discuss the experiences you've had and your ideas for the future. Now, I know there's so much we can learn from each other, and I believe that together we can make massive strides towards shaping an inclusive and positive vision for our modern, multicultural societies. Because we all share the fundamental belief that we all benefit when communities are open, inclusive, and integrated. And I'm looking forward to hearing your ideas about how we can empower people to play a more active role in their communities with a real voice in the decisions that affect their neighbourhoods, about how we can ensure that the homes built today lay the foundation for the integrated communities of tomorrow, about how we can tackle the economic injustice that drives inequality and breeds division. And let's be honest, compared to other policy areas, social integration is a new focus for cities. We don't have the same kind of background experience to fall back on, or an established body of work to expand. So today is an opportunity for us to come together, to take stock of where we are and the challenges we face, to test new ideas and to analyse what is working in our cities, and start the process of real collaborative work. We want to find the best way to measure social integration and find out what really works, what really makes change, and how we can be confident that we are using reliable methods in this area. I'm excited about what we can achieve. And this is, I hope, just the first of many, many more events like this. But before I finish, I'd like to set everyone a challenge for today. It's just one challenge, and it's not to explain what happened last Tuesday in the USA. It's something my Deputy Mayor Matthew Ryder will come back to in the closing session today. And that is, if there's just one thing you could do to improve integration, what would it be? If there's just one thing you could do to improve integration, what would it be? No matter how big or small your idea, no matter how much money or resources it costs, to a sensible degree, of course, we want to hear it. So to finish, we know that a lack of social integration is a growing challenge, that the implications are profound, that no city is immune, and we all here face a fundamental question. Are we going to respond to this growing challenge of the 21st century by pulling together and working in common cause? Or are we content to leave our citizens to go it alone with all the problems that will bring? I believe the latter is not an option. Yes, overcoming this will take real political and civic leadership. But none of the challenges I've described today are by any means insurmountable. We can do this. And if you take away just one thing today, let it be this: spreading greater understanding of the problem within our own administrations, communities, and cities is the first step. Then we can instill a new way of working, an attitude that spreads, making promoting social integration a constant thread that runs through everything we do, whether it's education, the voluntary sector, public health, or organising cultural activities. Social integration can't be seen as a side issue or a minor part of our work. It's part of what makes a city work effectively and touches on every aspect of our work and our lives. There's no one project that will fix this. It will require work and effort across the board. But I'm confident that if we're able to marshal the right forces and to treat this issue with the seriousness it deserves, that in the decades ahead, my daughters will be able to look back on my life and this time and to marvel at how far their city and others like it will have come. and this will be some moment. Thank you very much.